make you feel that there's some small things I can start doing now, because I like to think about the way we're working with AI is having those moments like you're discovering fire for the first time, because there's genuine massive opportunity for what it can do for us. So there's the absolute, there's lots of challenges in terms of how it disrupts us, but also there's a huge upside. And today, as a starting point, why we chose this topic is that, I don't know if everyone always feels overwhelmed with how much stuff's going on in your life and work, and it's just, we're so consumed with the day-to-day, is showing how simple AI tools can help alleviate or liberate your time. So that's very much what we want to be talking about today, is how do you liberate your time with AI. This is I don't know if I'm
Did you want to stand here maybe?
No, it's all pointing that way.
Oh, okay.
But,
Maybe just stand just there.
Or you guys can come over.
everyone's
I might ask one of you to come over.
Yeah.
Just one of you. Yeah.
But this is a central thesis. So I co-founded a generative AI studio about 2 years ago. Myself and 2 others, and we just went all in on AI. Well, we got permission from our home CFOs first, so our wives and partners, that we could start this AI thing. But we truly believe in this, that generative AI tools, once you start, they're actually easier than you think, but more powerful than you can imagine. We've been deep on these tools close to 7 days a week for over 2 years, and we believe we've barely scratched the surface on what they can do. Like every day, we find new things about what the art of the possible is with them. But what we're going to cover today is going to do rapid intros, because I'm really curious to hear about what you're curious about. Then I'm going to show you how to use a tool like an AI meeting assistant, and not just as a note taker, but how to use it to transform how you collaborate, how you think, how you generate ideas. And then also how you can collaborate with an AI tool to help reorganize your working week. And we're going to keep it quite simple in terms of functionality, but in terms of the power of what it can do for you. So,
Before we get started, Michelle, do you want to do a quick intro as well?
yeah, sorry, Michelle.
That's okay, but we are about to jump into intro, so I was going to take that opportunity. I am Michelle, I'm from Byron. I have been running community. I see, I've been in technology for 25 years. I see how quickly AI is moving, and I see how much impact it's going to have on society as we know it. So I think having meetings like this is the first step in us all getting our heads around AI literacy and how we can better use it and how we can become more empowered and do things like we're doing here to save us time, so we do have more time to learn about AI. So thanks for coming, and yeah, we'll talk more about what else is going on at the end. Put it back to you, and thank you, Chris.
So we might start, so we'll do rapid intros, just your name and one thing you're curious about from today. So David, would you like to start?
So David Whitehill, and I guess I'm in an industry in media, so television media and video production and things, so I think ours is going to be disrupted fairly heavily as well. So I'm interested in having a look at maybe, we had a chat the other day and it just blew me away in terms of what the hell's about to happen. So I think we need to learn sort of those fundamentals and probably get excited just about, what can be done for clients and that type of thing. So yeah, that's what I'm excited about.
Thanks, David. Welcome.
Cool, thank you.
Hi, Larissa Rose. I'm from environment, industry and sector, and I run my own company. My biggest question probably is how do I future-proof, but probably also leverage and put better integrations of AI in. And obviously this theme, high level, just diary and collaborations and all of that. So yeah, but there's already quite a lot of disruption in my sector as well. So especially with report writing.
Hey guys, Kenji Shimada. Well, I'm playing with a lot with just my day-to-day and using it for documents and sort of hashtag a lot of ideas like I was doing yesterday. But even just this morning, Gareth gave me just a few hot tips to even optimize further. I know that with my calendars, with my schedule, all that can be clarified more because I'm just more of like a gun-ho and try everything, but just much more optimized skill. I'm keen to learn some hot tips.
Thanks, Kenji.
Morning, John Woodley. I have a biotech company. So what I've used AI for is further medical research, which has been fantastic to find a link that we couldn't find, that we've researched for a long time. So we use the scholarship side and that sort of things. all come together, which is excellent.
And just as you're aware that there's going to be the first fully AI designed drug going through FDA approval at the moment in the
Is
US.
there? That's interesting. I've dealt with the FDA for many, many, many years. FDA, RTG, FDA in the States, that sort of thing. So, yeah, they're an interesting bunch. But, yeah. But, yeah, if you know what you're doing, you can get through that sort of thing. But that's interesting.
Well, my name's Fletcher. I work at Domino's and I'm just
AI pictures.
Downplaying the genius here.
That's right. Kerry O'Brien's my name. I'm a sports performance dietitian and working with elite teams and athletes in the nutrition support space primarily. So we're building a platform to better service that. It's a novel approach. I guess today for me, with the rapid growth of AI tools, and tools equals subscription from what I'm gathering, which we're getting more of each day, a framework of how best to research and use that. So you're sticking with the right ones if you're learning a tool.
Great question.
Awesome question. There's some really cool stuff we can share on that. Hey.
So I'm Bettina, I'm the tech side of these guys. In the last month, we've basically converted that everybody that works in our team has to use AI tools, and every single one of them has been blown away by how much it's sped them up. And yes, he pays for all the subscriptions, so he's seeing where all the money goes. But yeah, I think for me, I just want everybody to be immersed in how to use tools, because they're phenomenal. And yeah, we're going to have, I believe, yes, there's a lot of jobs that are going to disappear, but I think it will just speed everything up. So people are needed, and if we can all learn how to use the tools. And I don't use my AI for my calendar, so I'm trying to find out how to do all that.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I'm Nigel. I run a SaaS company out of Southeast Asia, but based here. So we're totally surrounded by AI, both in our product roadmap, but also internally. So we're 30 people. What I'm sort of writing down here is how to sort of succinctly answer where AI touches what I do. Probably the biggest areas is the future org chart of the company and how roles change. Just as an example, we actually have AI tools sitting in our org chart now as a sort of an intern for each team. And obviously we have a roadmap where different features that we have are being AI powered. Yeah, so we're very surrounded by AI.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Hi everyone, I'm Christy Whitehill. So 2 reasons, I guess, I'm here. I'm an entrepreneur, so I've got a health and beauty supplement e-commerce brand, which I'm scaling at the moment. So tools and things that can help us optimize, automate, and also get my crazy entrepreneur head organized. And then second thing is I founded a company called Tech Ready Women, which I ran for 8 years and I sold it last year, but I'm currently still on the board and designing a Jobs Academy program and supporting women on how to learn about AI. So just learning more and connecting in, I guess.
Welcome. We're just doing name and what you're curious about.
I was going to text from Michelle. I was like, I'm going to swoon in with my coffee. Sorry guys, that took forever. Andrew.
Aren't you?
Hey?
You're Wolverine, aren't you?
Wolverine, when it gets bigger, I'm working on it. You should see my dog, they say he looks like he's a giant German Shepherd.
Oh, cracked up.
Andrew Antonopoulos, I've got a company called Cinch. We're an augmented AI platform for R&D tax, capital raising, lending, corporate debt, alternative capital strategies. So I spent the last 18 months building AI agents that investigate claimants' documents, take away the consultants, replace the consultants, building like an AI augmented R&D tax manager inside of an innovative business. And now we're just expanding that capability to strategic and targeted capital raising, scraping VC funds, mandates, anyone that needs money. That'll then kick us into AI agents for that investment officer kind of role. So replacing the C-suite with AI.
You guys sat next to each other on purpose.
I've so rudely got my back to her. These cool jackets here, and
I think about it, you need to tap into the schools.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, no, Tech Ready is funded by government as well, so yeah, that's lots of
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
I was a DP at Palm Beach, and we've got all the teachers, mainly female, all using the AI.
Yeah.
Thanks for those intros. Do a quick show of hands. So on a scale of 1 to 5, and 1 being how do I spell ChatGPT, and 5 being I'm using it every single day, 7 days a week. Who would rate themselves as a 1 at the moment in terms of using AI tools? 2?
I'm 2.
2?
Yeah.
What about 3?
I'd say between the 2 and 3.
Okay. What about a 4? Nice. And who's 5? Oh,
I bet you wrong. Bet you're wrong.
So, thanks for sharing. So, we've done a lot of these types of workshops to like whole law societies, big companies, small companies. What do you think the average score is we get when we ask this question? 2?
2.
So it's actually closer to 1.
Wow.
So I think the reason I share that is that there is a lot of noise around AI, like even I feel anxious about it all day. I'm not learning enough about it. I'm not keeping pace because it seems like every person and their dog is using it. But the reality is actually more. There's a lot of people who are either, I'll wait for this AI thing to die down and wait for it to settle, or it doesn't really apply to me, or I just can't see how it helps me. So if you're in the fact you're in here today and you're starting to use it, you can be confident you actually are ahead of a significant part of the population, and just having that curiosity and the willingness to start learn is going to get you ahead. So what I'm saying is don't panic. Like even if you do feel a bit anxious, you're taking the right steps, because there are a whole lot of people who are doing nothing about it, and that's just not going to be a good way to work. Who's seen this movie?
Yeah.
Intern. Love it. I've seen it so many times. What was it? In the start of the film, so Robert De Niro, what's his background when he comes in as an intern? Does anyone remember?
Is he advertising?
Yeah. So he goes in and takes an intern, but he's really experienced. He's got all of these skills and knowledge. But if you remember, what was the first job he did?
I think it was in the same building, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was actually in the same building as this is
Yes.
where I was.
His old
building.
factory. Yeah.
I don't know, 30 years, 20 years,
Yeah.
or whatever it was.
Oh, yeah,
so-
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you remember in the film, what's quite interesting is
Turn on
that
his computer, wasn't it?
he's learning how to turn on the computer, but then he cleans up a desk. Like remember they had that big merchandise desk and all that, and so he was he had all these skills and he's been applied to quite a basic task. But why I love this, I love the film, I've seen it many times, but as the film progresses, his boss starts to realise, wow, how much capability do I have in this intern? But I didn't know until I started to ask. And that is why we use that as an example. We think about the mindset with these tools. It's not necessarily, I don't feel like if you're worried about I'm missing out on all these wonderful prompts and these prompt guides, I would say you can pretty much ignore all of that, because these tools are getting better and better at working with us. Our role is to think about how we work with them. So this is how like a mindset we apply when we think about AI tools, is we think about it as this incredibly brilliant intern, and it's up to us to actually bring out the best in that intern. So if you were to work with a really talented new graduate, is that say it's their first day on the job working for your company, would you say to them, can you go write my 5-year strategy? Is that something you would give to someone who's just joined your business? Probably not. What would you do if you had a brand new team member? How would you immerse them in your business? What questions? How would you approach that? Your side.
As far as onboarding process, but apart from that, trying to learn more about them. Initially, hopefully you've got an idea of what their interests are if they're related with culture, I guess. Yeah, trying to lay out the culture of the team, the company, and trying to get them to realise that the values of the team.
And then when you coach them on a task, what are some things that you would do if you're coaching a new person on a task?
Yeah. I guess you tell them why you're doing it and the process, right? Procedural-based stuff, so that it's replicated with efficiency.
Yeah. And that approach, if you take that approach when using the tools, you will get better results. So it's been proven now that if you actually share context with an AI tool like ChatGPT about why it's doing a task, it can actually get you better results. So these 5 things we do all the time is that be specific in your instruction. Like I was coaching a board member of a significant Australian corporate, and he showed me his prompt, and he's like, give me dot points on the strategy. It was the prompt he put in. And then he was like, got angry, like, look at what it's producing. I'm like, can you read back what you've just given to that tool? Because we have this approach like, oh, because I'm talking to a robot, I should talk a bit like a robot and not give it much context or instructions. So these sort of 5 things, be specific in your instructions. Whatever task you do, be clear, write clearly. Provide access to any background information. So if you're getting it to do a task in your business, provide an attachment about if you're asking it to help you with a new strategy, give it a copy of the existing strategy document. Or if you have a vision for your business, provide it with that vision document. Show an example of what good looks like. I think about if you ever went to art school and the teacher says go and paint a Picasso, they would probably show you a Picasso painting first. It wouldn't be a case of go and paint it without any context of what you're doing. So if you have examples, if you're getting it to write emails for you and there's a certain style, you write, copy and paste your emails in, say, this is how I write. Here's a good example. Or even, here's a bad example. I don't like this style. And then point 4, phenomenal thing that can uplift results. Ask the model if it has any questions for you before it starts the task. You'll be amazed at what it comes back with to help you clarify and focus on what you need to do. And then the final thing, always check their work. So think about it as 60 to 80% of your answer. It's not going to be a copy and paste 100% answer. So by checking the work, you're going to add extra value into the task. You don't want to be like that lawyer that got caught out last year where he literally copied and pasted case law from ChatGPT and turned up in court, and half the cases were made up. Yeah, that's not how
it doesn't
you
even
work.
apologise, ChatGPT.
Yes, it does. Actually.
Does it now?
Yeah. I called it out the other day and he went, oh, I'm sorry, you're sharp.
That wasn't about the looks.
But these things like this is less about here's a rigid structure, but more how I need to think about if I can set up the tool to be as successful as possible, I want to set it up for success for me. So don't make it harder for it to do the task for you.
Hey Gareth, you're going to share these slides at the end?
Yes, yeah, all these slides will share.
Could you just clip that on your lapel too, thanks?
Ooh, this is fancy.
Yeah, on your jacket.
I just sent Michelle. There's a really cool program a mate of mine built, which is called Prompt Cowboy. And you put in there what you want it to do, and it generates the prompt exactly.
We're in the world of media now, but
So a free resource. I sent it to you if you could.
Send it around, yeah, sure.
Andrew, there's a whiteboard behind you and pens right there.
I was going to say, with that 0.5 as well, a huge one for me has been, verify, clarify, and I always get it to, I was like, share your understanding with me, so I'll punch it all in, and then it's like, I believe this is what you're thinking of. Because especially like with Claude and these massive documents generation, they'll just ham and they'll just write documents straight off the bat, and then you're like, far out, you're changing this massive code and this massive thing, so it's like, before you do that, just share what you believe you understand.
I like it. And that's good. That's starting to think about it as like a co-intelligence you're working with. So first activity we're going to do is, if you've got your diary handy or if you know what's on for your week, is have a look at what's on for your next week. So if you want to open your calendar on your phone or thing, and then quickly look at your diary, and all I want you to share is that how does it make you feel looking at your diary? Just the one word to encapsulate that. You're looking at the next week and a half, your calendar. So looking at your calendar, how do you feel when you look at it?
I'm flying to Europe, so it's pretty good.
Feeling good? Awesome.
Probably not a good one to start with.
When looking at your calendar, how do you feel looking at your diary?
Yeah, I'm good. I don't have overwhelm.
Do you feel in control?
I do feel in control.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good. Kenji, what about yourself? Look, you frowning when you're looking at your diary?
No, so just message Richard's. I don't know, I've been working on it pretty hard over the last few months to not have overwhelmed, so I'm actually pretty happy with it right now.
Nice. Yeah.
So my issue is like the opposite. I don't put stuff in my diary.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's all in my head, but I am busy all day long.
So you feel like there's stuff just going on.
Get it down.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point about that feeling of overwhelm, because just some basic stats is that if we think about how we work as humans, so 1960s, we had less than 10 hours of meetings or things that we had to do with other people. Now, I'm kind of in the way, but we're in a place now where we're looking at 23 hours per week. We're in meetings. 25.6 meetings per week. 68% of people are saying they just don't have enough time to do work. Like, I just don't have enough time. I'm running from meeting to meeting. And then 71% of our time we believe is unproductive. So that's a massive shift. Even though we've got all this technology and tools around us, we're actually starting to feel like we're chasing our tail more and we're feeling less and less productive. So that's a real setting for where we are now.
Massive workforce difference as well. Younger staff don't want to sit in meetings.
No.
Exactly.
And it's an amazing cultural difference. So take the intern.
Yeah.
The amount of cultural toxicity that's created by meeting overload.
Yeah.
Immense.
Yeah. And how we're meeting just isn't as effective anymore. But the advantage we have now is that if we think about technology and tools in the past, is that big CRM systems or other tools and technology, it was big corporates that had access to it. So they had the budget, the technology, the time to set everything up. We're in a situation now where there's no infrastructure needed for us individually to access these tools. So who's got a smartphone and a data plan? Anyone? But that's all actually you need to access these tools. And that's the first time in human history where we talk about everywhere, all at once for everyone. And that's significant. The fact that we don't need any infrastructure. So we're saying, we think about all that overwhelm and the fact we've got access to these tools, is AI going to save us? Well, who feels like this? Sometimes I think your point around things happening in your day is we're having meetings to organise for meetings and we've got our home and work life clashing, all of these things coalescing, but it doesn't feel like we're being productive. So is anyone familiar with any of these tools that are up on the screen?
No.
So who's used a few of them? So which ones have we used? The Otter? Yep.
Can I ask, who's using Otter right now?
Yay! In the room now.
Two?
Yeah, I'm using it.
Excellent.
Yeah, and that's important. Do you want to share why you asked that question, Chris?
So when you leave, well, one thing is so that you can engage with all of the people and the actual speaker and the content and not have to take notes. And two, you can summarise the meeting afterwards.
So, and I think that's a really good point. What we're going to talk about soon is about why we need to think differently about these tools. So for those that aren't familiar, these are a whole series of what they call AI note takers. And I actually don't like that word note takers because they can do so much more. But in terms of what's in the market at the moment, you've got tools like Otter, Fireflies, Circleback or Spinach. All of these you can try for free, but they are what's classified as AI note takers. So that's one set of tools that exist to help us
Which
make
ones
better.
have the better data security?
So
Training and storage and all that stuff point of view.
Yep. So a lot of it's in terms of where they're like. So I know Otter's US-based servers. You can control what data is shared and used to train future models. A lot of them now, it's a matter of like what you have control with. So when I talk about these note takers, is that for those people that are more advanced users, is the two things that I use to decide on what note taker to use is how much control do I have over what notes it takes, what meetings it joins, and how it uses my data. And the second thing is that does it take notes and does it have an assistant sitting on top of the notes? So I'll explain that in a couple of minutes, but ultimately, if we can think about it as not just writing notes for us, but you've got this incredible executive assistant with you all the time who can take action on your meeting notes. So they're scribbling your notes and they're doing things based on those notes after. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So another, if you ever wanted a good laugh, Tom Fishburne does fantastic cartoons around the hype around AI, but I'm going to show you what I mean about how you can truly use AI meeting assistants. Anyone familiar with a term called skeuomorphism? So I wasn't until I started working with my co-founder, Ben. So skeuomorphism, we think about, so radio and film, is that when film first came out, what we did as humans is we got this pretty chunky camera on a tripod and plonked in front of a stage. And actors acted as they would normally do when you would go and watch a play. Same thing with radio. When radio first came out, you had news readers or news presenters reading the newspaper over radio. So what they were doing is they had this new technology, but they were using it with their old, in terms of the way they used to work. So they were doing what they did before slightly better. It was only after radio was out for a while that they started to go, I can take my radio, my microphone, and go and interview someone on the street and bring that interview to this audience. I can tell stories over the radio. So they started to think about new things that weren't possible because of this technology. Same thing with film, is after a while they're like, actually, what if I picked up this camera and moved it in and moved it around the stage? Oh, I can take this camera outside and film different things. So there was all this stuff that wasn't possible before, but this new technology made it possible. But us as humans, we defaulted to, let's just use this new technology to do what we do slightly better. And that concept is really important to keep in the back of your minds with AI tools and with note takers. So the way we can think about it is that how do we change the questions we ask? So how do we operate in a non-skeuomorphic way? So we've been trained by Google over the last 2 decades to ask a question a certain way online. So you put a query in Google, where's the restaurant closest to me? Or how much is this pair of shoes? Or how do I find? So we've been trained to ask questions in a certain way. We need to change how we ask questions with these tools. So you can see here's a good example is this first one, please provide me a recipe for spaghetti bolognese. Standard question, like a Google style question. People are putting those kind of questions into ChatGPT. Versus if we change the question, take a picture of the inside of your fridge. What can I make with this? So this is starting to think about it in a non-skeuomorphic way. So very, very different way of working with the tools. So what does that mean in terms of an AI meeting assistant? So I'll show you what I mean by that. Is if we took a non-skeuomorphic approach to using an AI meeting assistant. So what you'll see here, and I'm kind of in, is that, so this is a meeting that I had with a potential client yesterday. So your standard, you'll get like a transcript. So this is, you'll see all the sort of random talk, like this is just all the conversation we had with this client. So I'm like, oh, great, it's done pretty good notes for me. So if I thought about this in a skeuomorphic way, I said, great, I've got my notes. I haven't had to write my notes. But now I'm thinking, actually, I want to use my note taker in a non-skeuomorphic way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to talk to Otter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let me give you the chair.
Oh no, there's another chair just here.
Oh, is it? Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's okay.
So your needs for soccer.
So I can say, so for this was a potential client meeting. So normally what would happen after a client meeting, I need to get back to the client. I need to write an email. I need to think about what their next agenda is. I need to take action on everything. So instead of me thinking through that, what I've got is I've got an assistant that's across my transcript. So I can say to Otter, I can say, Otter, please write me a thank you email to Darren and include the actions from the meeting.
How come you're so polite as well, Gareth?
Well, just in case the robots take over, they'll remember.
And they identify Gareth, they go, oh, you were nice.
But so here's what, like a simple example here is that, so I'm not thinking, oh, I'm going to read the transcript, but actually I would like my meeting assistant to help me. So you can see here is that I've asked Otter to draft an email based on specifically what we talked about in the email to a specific person. It's actually pulled out what the action items are for me. And then it's just really about, there's no limit in terms of what I can think about doing. So I know that I'm probably going to have a follow-up meeting. Please draft the agenda for the next meeting.
You can even have typos and it'll get it. I'll
Yeah.
out about it.
Yes, I'm a terrible speller based on what we discussed. So these are...
I actually don't type anything anymore. I just...
Voice to text.
Oh yes, voice is fantastic.
Not voice to text,
Yep.
but the voice.
Yeah.
Just voice
Yeah.
is way better than voice to
Yeah.
text.
Yep.
Because I can spend 10 minutes even thinking about what I'm saying, and I can say it, and it'll go and recorrect the whole conversation with voice to text is only going to give me what I'm saying. And it's so much faster.
And I think tools like Whisperflow are very, very good, where it can sit across all your applications and you're just talking to Whisperflow and it's putting text into all of your other applications. So if you ever want to know what the FN button on your Mac is. But what we're demonstrating here is you can see that what Otter's done is it's worked out how long our meeting was, what we've talked about in the meeting, and drafted an agenda. And then following those tips at the beginning about the mindset, I would go through and I would probably review that, check the agenda. But this is where we should really think about how can I do more than just ask it to take notes for me. So Chris and Michelle and I were talking most mornings I've got a 3-year-old British bulldog, so I take him for a walk, but it's really an amble. So Bennett walks about 500 metres up the street and then he's tired and comes back. But I have a lot going on in my brain in the morning, so I put my AirPods in and I talk to Otter. I download my brain from overnight. And then I get back to my laptop and I ask Otter, I say, what are all my tasks for today based on what we talked about? What was the idea? Draft the first steps in the business plan for that idea. Whatever it might be is that instead of going, well, I have to use this meeting assistant in a meeting, actually, it's my assistant that can take what I'm talking about and transcribe it. So that's where we can start to push, like, how else might I use this? So my co-founders and I, we often put a mobile phone down in the middle of the table, and when we're having a brainstorm, we can just talk freely about our ideas and our thoughts. We know Otter's going to be capturing, and then afterwards we ask Otter to take actions on whatever we've talked through. Any questions or thoughts?
Yeah, what's the difference with Whisperflow then to Otter?
So Whisperflow is just more, that's where that will sit across all your applications. So if I open Claude or ChatGPT or any, I'll just talk to that and it just does the voice to text straight into the tool. So Whisperflow is just almost if you don't want to type into any application.
You don't have the voice application, it sits over the top of it.
Well, I just have that because a lot of them do have, but it's just one tool that sits across. So whenever if I Alt-tab if I'm jumping between a Google Doc and then ChatGPT and then an email, Whisperflow sits across the top. So I just press talk to Whisperflow and then it'll write the email in that application for me.
It says pressing another button.
Yeah, I know, I'm getting very, very lazy.
The microwave, and it's like I'm sitting there waiting 30 seconds for the microwave. It's so long. It's like, what? I have to click one more button? I don't want to do that.
How are you dealing with permission? Before conversation.
Yeah. So that's a really important point. Is that it's really, especially for within Mix. So Otto joins meetings as an example, but I think it's really, really important before anything is discussed that you get that permission from team members. But the way I do it is that I've got my meeting assistant in this meeting. Would you be okay if I record? I'm happy to share that transcript with you after. So first you get the permission, but also adding value to the other participants. It's like, oh yeah, do you mean I can access it and not take notes? And also the other thing to remember, there's been horror stories where you should always be in control with your assistant, where people have pitched to VC firms, startups, and they've done their pitch and then the human has left the meeting, but their note taker has stayed in the meeting and the VC fund is talking about the pitch, so basically slagging them off, and they're like, it's all in the transcription. So, pardon?
You'd rather know that there was like.
But I think that's a really important, and that's where we change our mindset. Is I'm inviting an AI assistant into a conversation. How am I using that, both from a permission, when's it joining, what's it recording, and also how am I helping other people understand the risk.
Understanding presence and permissions.
Yes, yeah.
And you're recording permission too, right?
Exactly. And I know that some people, so sometimes in the meeting invite, our meeting assistant will be joining this meeting. If you have any objections, please, there's no beginning. So there's these little behavioural changes that we start to notice that are important.
Which actually, the more, I think this is one of your points, right? It's just more and more human. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like an author, would you like can my colleague join?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've even noticed we worked with this large health fund And for their internal meetings, what they've done now is that, say, especially their C-suite, they need to be across so much stuff, but they only need to be in specific meetings. So what we did is we did a very basic sort of RACI mapping, so responsible, accountable, consulted, informed. And there were all of these key meetings that the C-suite needed to be informed about but didn't need to attend the meetings. So they sent their note takers to all of those meetings, and then they attended other meetings in person. But for them, what it meant was they didn't have to sit through a 2-hour recording. They just asked their assistant, said, was I mentioned in this meeting? What do I need to do? Are there any actions for me? So there is that side where if you needed to be, you can be in 3 or 4 places at once, but it's about how you best use your time as a human to be physically present in other meetings.
So this was discussed at AICD yesterday morning, and my verdict on that was that it's not best practice because we can't trust the AI to capture the conversation verbatim, and that we need to, as directors especially, triangulate all of our information and our thoughts, so that we are there in person, we are hearing what's been said, the note taker is getting the data, and then we're also speaking to other colleagues that are maybe in that meeting to verify, what was said and what should be done. So, not best practice. People are taking advantage of it at the moment, but I think it will quickly come about that triangulation is actually the best way forward.
And I think that's where it goes back to you're reviewing the work, you're involved, like where's the human in the loop in that as well.
You have to be present, I think, to actually be able to, ascertain whether or not it captured the right context, and even what was said, it misspells things, especially difficult words.
Which is no different to sending 3 interns to a meeting on behalf of 3 managers.
I've tried in order to say, for the rest of the meeting, assign all actions to Rob. Because he wasn't there. Just to see what happened in the end, and it did a pretty good job.
Nice. Smart.
I think also where you're actually obtaining permission, that should be recorded, and you should have each individual speaker introduce themselves by name and answer yes or no that they accept that. So that what that does from the outset is it helps Otter identify who the speakers are, because when you will say, oh, that's such and such's task, or that's my task, Otter will actually pick up who said that, because it's a recording and it can tell the difference between most people's.
And has any been tested in courts yet? Like
in Australia, we're very conservative. I think we are bottom ranked in terms of AI adoption and willing to adopt. I know in the US, in some areas, they are starting to, but there's always this big disclaimer around this has been used to train, how might you use it? But it's more about how we can think about, so if we think about in the context of a court proceeding, that's where, how do we reframe what the role of the note taker is?
Also, I'm not talking about using it in court. I'm talking about someone disputing whether they gave permission or not.
Oh, okay, yes, yeah, that's still going to be that's going to be a very grey area for quite a while.
We also use Channing House rules, so if you're not aware what that is, you can quote what was said but can't identify the speaker. So that's, and if you state that at the beginning, are we okay for this?
Good morning, team. Channing House rules again.
I work a lot more in the commercially sensitive data space. The privacy principles say that you need to tell the person what you're using, where the data is going, where it's going to be stored, how it's going to be used, in order for you to have a defense that that data hasn't in fact breached.
And how does that turn into a user experience? Like, read these TNCs before
Sorry, I already picked up my swear words. It comes around the sort of data sovereignty that you would as a company maybe adopt and say it can be used in circumstances where data is not commercially sensitive or in nature. This is how I've done it, because it's mainly IP and trade secrets and formulas and stuff. So we've had to build it within Australia, rules based in Australia, that nothing gets stored offshore.
Andrew, you also came in late. We're YouTube Live, by the way.
Sweet.
Rob, all tasks are assigned to you.
So what we'll
Doesn't make
do,
any money.
so,
But it is an important point because my legal practice is doing it now, and you would have done the Law Society stuff. They're extremely conservative. If anything leaks or data breaches occur, and it's otherwise your fault if you've not received express consent in detail about what you're using, where it's going, what it's used for. So it is a bit tricky on that.
So there's some pretty interesting cases in the next 12 months.
Yes, but the director's duties is an interesting one because they also said, have you satisfied your director's duties by having a note taker in the meeting and you not being present? And I think the answer I'm hearing resounding is no. So if you say you were aware because Otter took a note and told you the company may be going insolvent, but it's not a defense that you have a note from a meeting, you've got to be there and do your active duties. So it's an interesting area in Australia. It's very backwards.
In my last company, my investor used to bring his daughter and do the notes. And then she wouldn't get around for a couple of weeks and I'd tell her, I don't recall any of that thing.
Was she 9 and he was trying to get a tax deduction?
so what we...
Effectiveness is one thing. It's extremely effective, but the laws are very sensitive.
So what we might do is individually, we have 2 minutes. So based on what I've just shared around, if we think about, it's not just taking notes for me, but it's an assistant that helps me take action. Think about, there's a list of tips here, is if you were to use an AI note taker, and if you want to write it down or put a note in your phone, what's one thing over the next week that you might use it for that's not just taking notes in a meeting? So take sort of 2 minutes and reflect and think about what's one thing. So here are some tips. Do you think aloud a lot? Do you just want to talk to it? You're constantly running out of time to listen to podcasts. Run the podcast and have your meeting assistant listen to the podcast for you, and then you can talk to the podcast. Do you brainstorm with your co-founders a lot? Well, is it there to capture the brainstorm? Morning dog walks. The other one would be, how do you currently create product requirements? So do you just talk through your product requirements and provide it with a template? So it's filling out a template. So have a think about 1 or 2 things. So you want to be able to walk out of today and go, I'm trying to really push my thinking about a situation where it's not just a note taker, but an assistant for me. Great. So has everyone got an idea that they're going to experiment with?
Yeah.
Actually, what was that last? That's yours one actually.
Yep.
I like the podcast.
Podcast, that is brilliant.
I all the time, and I'm like, I never have time to finish it.
Yep.
And know what it's.
That is, exactly. And because what you're able to, if you think about that, is that you can then talk to the assistant about the podcast.
Yeah.
So you can ask it specific things.
Ask your scribe that information. Has that already been said in the meeting?
With that, Gareth, with say the podcast, an example, what feedback does the AI give you? So if you can't listen to the 1 hour, what are you saying, how you interact with it?
So for me, I listen to a lot of my podcasts are about cycling training, and I might get through half of it and then I'll finish my workout and I won't be able to listen to the other half. And I would get Otter to listen to the second half of the podcast, and I'd ask it, what other training methods did they discuss at the end of this podcast? So it would be specific about, so for me personally, I'm listening to a podcast for a purpose, to learn something, or I'm really interested in that topic. I would ask it about, did they discuss this, or what was the podcast host's perspective on this?
Yeah.
So
does that talk back to you in text, or talks back to you in?
So for a meeting assistant, it'll be text-based in that sense. So even my wife's a psychologist.
Your wife's an AI bot?
Yeah, no, she's actually a real person. But for her, she follows a lot of other psychologists, and she listens to a lot of podcasts to help frame her group therapy sessions. She doesn't have time to listen to them all, but she has certain ideas. So she would get her Otter to listen to some podcasts, and then she asked Otter to come up with suggestions about a group therapy session for her based on that recent podcast. So for her, that's how she's starting to use it, to go, this is a new topic of therapy, and this is now, I don't have time to listen to it, but I want to type because it's faster for me. So this is where the main thing to emphasize here is that the only limit to what you can do is your creativity. So the tool's never going to say, you shouldn't have done that, you should try this. The only thing that's going to stop you to that point around it's more powerful than you can imagine. the questions you can come up with are going to help you unlock what it can
Why
do.
do you think, going back to the beginning, why do you think everyone's at a 1 and this will pass? And like if you think about the teachers and everybody who's dealing with lots of data, the psychologists, they're really, what's holding people back from embracing?
Yeah.
Because they've tried it and hallucinated and then they think it doesn't.
Well,
Like,
we're spot on.
My
Yeah.
son, 18, no, we've done that, it doesn't
I know all
work.
of
I'm like, what?
Well, that's spot on. That one big theme, there's a big chunk of people who we interview, and they literally, it's almost verbatim, they keep saying the same thing. Oh, November, December 2023, I tried it and it didn't work. But then we ask, what did you try? And when they play it back, they asked a Google question.
Yeah.
And it didn't get them answer. They said, did you continue the conversation? Like, what do you mean continue the conversation? Did you keep chatting? Oh no, I just asked the question, didn't get it right. The other one is that we're seeing another big chunk of people who are like, now that it's moving so fast, I can't keep up, so I'm just opting out. So it's just too fast for me. I'm overwhelmed, so I'm going to take an even bigger step back. So that's another pattern we're starting to see. So that's kind of the two themes we're seeing.
I've noticed that with my GTD chat that I've used for a couple of years now, with the data I've been asking, it's actually built a whole image around my whole product.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can ask anything and it just refers back to exactly all my FDAs, all my research and everything, and just spits it straight out. Pretty good. How does that go now with that case? Does mine's a well-versed and I'm saying my patents, is that now others will start to ask that?
So are you using ChatGPT paid plan?
Mainly that one. Yeah,
So the first thing, and this is for everyone in the room, I would recommend...
So does it start to become common knowledge amongst everyone else?
So the thing you need to do is, let me see if I bring up, is you can control how your data is used to train a future model. So when in a paid account, you'll have like a little settings button down here, but mine's up the top right. What you should all do, and this isn't in a free plan, in a free plan you can't change this setting. You should go to your settings, and there'll be a thing called data controls, which is just here. The problem is that this feature, see how here, so it's saying on, and this is, I'll switch that. So you need to switch that, oops, sorry, my thing isn't working.
GPT says no.
Yes, but that should be off. So basically what you're doing, so I've got that on at the moment because we're doing some work with a not-for-profit at the moment. They want to try and reshape how the training data is used. But by switching that off, the main thing what that does is your conversations aren't used to train a future model. So to your point, the way these tools work is they run through a period of training and then they release the new model and then they run through another period of training. To train them, they need lots and lots of data. So by default, that switches off.
I don't even know what doing. I've done that before.
Where is it under settings?
So you'll find there's an option called data controls.
It's in the model for everyone.
Yes. Yeah, and it's kind of cheeky the way they even word that.
Yeah.
Different subscription levels.
Because I really export my data or conversations from there as well, data control. Because I just wanted the whole conversation just into a file and I could export.
And I think the other thing to think through now is the world we live in, we are living in an AI augmented world. So if you are on LinkedIn, if you are using any other tool, all of those tools at the moment are training their own models and the setting would be on. So LinkedIn, I know, got in a lot of trouble because without telling you about the change in the terms and conditions, they've switched on their own training model. So I recommend if you're a LinkedIn creator and you want to make sure that is kept private, is go into your similar things, go into your settings, and there'll be a toggle to switch off LinkedIn to use your conversations to train future models. So most apps and tools now have that feature in and they don't tell you, and it's default on. So that's a really important way to take control of your conversations and your data. But then on the flip side, I think there's the how you control your data. The other side that we see is that we also want to make sure that these models are free from bias. And because they're trained on historical data, which comes from a male-centric Western culture, there is a lot of bias built in the models. So we're actually working with a not-for-profit that is deliberately switching on all their conversations because of what they're focusing on. They're helping empower women, and their view is they actually want that to go into the training data. So there's two sides to it, but it's just more your mindset around it. So the next activity we're going to do is quite a fun one, and this is about how you can start to get an AI assistant, or even like a ChatGPT, to work with you around your diary and your calendar. There's a couple of ways we can do this. So if you think we've talked about an AI note taker, meeting assistant that helps you join meetings, you can use these tools to help better organise your week as well. So not just attending meetings and freeing up time. So has everyone got a ChatGPT account here? We use ChatGPT? Great. So an experiment you can do. Take a screenshot of your calendar, the next week, your calendar. You take a screenshot. And then if you open up, so I'll show you how you can do that. So I'll take a screenshot. Where's my diary? And basically what we're going to do is we are going to, we will give ChatGPT that screenshot. So if you take a screenshot, and has everyone uploaded a file into ChatGPT for it to interact with? So that little plus. So if you take a screenshot of your calendar, that's saved on your phone, you go into ChatGPT, add that screenshot into the conversation, and here's a prompt that you can try. So my current work, so my current working week, whatever it is not feeling productive, or I'm not getting enough thinking time, something that you feel is missing from your working week. Is not feeling productive. Attached is a screenshot of my diary or my calendar for the next 2 weeks or next week. Please review these screenshots and create a plan for me to free up time to have more time to think, as an example. So, and you'll have these slides so you can try it. But if in a basic sense, what you're saying is thinking about this as an assistant, you're like, if you had a great assistant, you would sit down with them and say, oh, my diary's a nightmare for the next 2 weeks. Can you help me free up time? We're giving that task to ChatGPT.
Yes.
So then it can start to think about suggestions. The other advantage, if you're on a paid plan of ChatGPT, has anyone connected their calendar or email address to ChatGPT? So what you can see, here, so in a paid plan, there's this option about adding sources, and you'll see here what I've done is, so we use Google Workspace. So all of these are things that you're connecting ChatGPT to. So what we're starting to see a pattern is a tool like ChatGPT and Claude is becoming the central coordinator of other apps. So what I've done is I've connected Gmail and Google Calendar to ChatGPT, so that's connected. So what I can do is I can say to, I can say to ChatGPT, I want you to, I've clicked search connectors, so my email and calendar is connected. I can say to ChatGPT, I feel like I need more time to think next week. Please.
More than one Gmail?
At the moment, it's one per account. Please, because their idea is that they're thinking about it one person and how you optimise for that person. Please look at my diary next week and find a time where I can have 1 hour of thinking time. So it should now look, it should be searching through my calendar. And I'm not hotspotting, sorry, I need to hotspot.
The internet would help.
Yes, yeah. Thank you.
Everything ends when the internet ends.
Yes.
Yeah, I upgrade the lights to make sure I have internet. Not being able to work all that time.
Okay.
Actually, somebody was asking before about, I think maybe about podcasts. I use ChatGPT to go and listen to a podcast for me, and then bring back all of the key points or things that I'm looking for, and give me the new ideas or whatever it is, or just a summary. And then I say, oh, by the way, I'm driving, so can you read it to me? And then it'll do the audio for me. Or there is an audio button, it just takes a while, a minute, a second.
Yeah, does that connect to the podcast? What do you say?
You can tell it to go find it. I usually don't even put it in. Otherwise, you can put the URL and just go, here's the podcast. But I just tell it to go find it and just go find it.
And essentially it'll give you a 10-minute summary of
Well, it'll give you 2 minutes, 3 minutes, however long you want. And then but the thing is, it'll read it to me, and then I'll go, oh, really? That sounded interesting. Can you refer this that you talked about or whatever, and go find that for me? And then tell me what those things are, and bring it back into my feed again. And then I'm listening to that again, and then I'm like, oh, no, I'm still driving. Can you tell me, can you read it out to me? And so it'll then read it out to me again. So I find that productivity-wise, I'm a slower reader and way slower at comprehending. I'm auditory, so I just give me all the stuff auditory and I feed it back. And then I try and split out what I'm learning, because I go down rabbit holes, right? And so I go, okay, can you put that into a separate chat for me? And then it'll go and put that one in a chat, and now I'll take this idea and put it into a separate chat. So then I'm building funnels that I'll come back to later.
And a million followers.
And then I can't, a million of those, but then I just go, hey, can you go find the chat that we had about blah, blah, blah? It'll go, oh, I can't find anything about this, but how about this? And I went, no. Go find me, we talked about this is. Sometimes you just need to argue back with it, and the more you argue with it and you use it, it knows everything about you, and it's like, yeah, I know what you're looking for.
And I think that point that you made there at the end.
Yeah, ChatGPT.
Yeah, okay.
But I think that point you made at the end is really important. The fact that you're collaborating with it, that's also, you've shifted from a Google query. So you're not just, because that's where a lot of people, they don't think, oh, give it feedback. That's not quite what I wanted. And there's 3 things we're finding now, like best practice in terms of setting up a prompt with reasoning models. You no longer have to have these incredibly well structured and all this fancy stuff in a prompt. There are 3 things that you should think about. Context, provide context for the task, then describe the task really clearly, and then ask for specific output format. So always think you're in control of how it produces the results. If you like to see things in tables, ask for a table. If you need to see something in a set of PowerPoint slides, ask for the output in PowerPoint slides. So
yeah, I often ask, now put an idea into a picture for me. Form some sort of image, and then it helps me to visualise all the information that you spoke about. To be able to drop it down to an image, and often I'll be asking it to build an image of something from the tech team, and then I'm arguing with it saying, no, I need the arrow to go here or there, and then I'm like, whoa, stop, Bettina, I need to think more like it knows better than me, so go and be a world-class architect and redesign this properly, and then it does it. So sometimes stopping how the track, if it's not working, the track that I'm going down, and then go, okay, well, you create something that's based on whatever the role is in normally designed behaviour.
Guys, I want to be really respectful of everyone's time. That's a wrap for the workshop. So anybody that does have something else going on today, like me,
Friday, what are you talking about?
Mate,
Where's your shirt?
Mate, we work weekends. We are running. Okay, so thanks so much for turning up for the first pilot of AI workshops. I believe we want to give Gareth a round of applause, and Michelle, thanks so much for organising. And thanks for Me Media for hosting. Wow, what a lovely company. If you haven't got a copy of the book, several people already do, please take that. We were talking about prompting and giving it context. One of the great things about that book is the meat and the sandwich is a proactive marketing methodology, which is about being strategic and planning out your content marketing. It's a perfect framework for all that. You could snap it with your phone, give your AI bot context around what it is you want to do and ask it to create a plan for you based on whatever you've told it, and it will use that structure. So that's just one tip from me. Thanks so much again, and I'll just turn off the YouTube recording and we can all exit.
I'll share the slides as well.
Thanks, Gareth.
Gareth, I've got a question for you. How do we take that book and just stick it in there?